Welcome back everyone, I'm Plays Games, this is EVE Online, and this is the third in our series of videos on basic industry. In the previous episode we went into great detail on the decision making process when deciding what to build in the first place, and in this video we'll be talking all about the blueprints. So after doing all of our market research and considering everything else we had to consider, we have finally decided what we want to build, and now it's time to actually buy the blueprints. Any blueprints we find on the market page will be originals, which have infinite uses and can be further enhanced by conducting research jobs on them. Originals can be very expensive. Some originals are only sold in certain regions, so you may need to move around in order to find the ones you want. It can be cheaper to buy blueprint copies from the player-to-player contract system. Blueprint copies have limited numbers of uses and cannot be further enhanced by research. The copies you find on the contract system can have a vast array of different stats, from numbers of runs on them to the material efficiency and time efficiency scores. You'll have to run some numbers and decide if the savings that these various stats provide you and the number of runs are worth the price being asked. This is where your spreadsheeting skills come in. Remember that blueprints for certain items are only available as copies, so you'll be forced to buy those ones from contracts. Contracts can be found by going up here to the Neocom and then Finance and Contracts. You'll start on the start page. What you do, you click the contract search and then buy and sell. And we'll just type in antimatter charge M. Leave it on all regions. You can have it in current region if you want, but all regions will obviously show you every contract in the game. The contract type, you may be tempted to click want to buy because we're trying to buy something, but this is incorrect. What we want is to find contracts that are saying they want to sell something. If you click want to buy, then you'll find people have put contracts wanting to buy something that you sell to them. Right, so want to sell. Item category can help you further laser in on exactly what it is we want. We know we want antimatter charge M blueprint copy, so we'll select blueprint copy. Item group doesn't really matter. Security filters, I think we'll leave low sec and null sec unchecked because I don't feel like venturing into these places. Even the best deal isn't really worth the risk. When you're happy, click search. Okay, so there's not that many contracts for antimatter charge M blueprint copies at the moment. When you mouse over the blueprint, it will show you all the stats. So this one is 300 runs at 10% material savings and 20% faster build time. See these ones here, you can't just mouse over them because it's multiple items, one of which will be the antimatter charge M. Let's have a look at this. You just double click on them to open them. Yeah, this guy is selling lots of copies of everything. He's wanting 3 billion ISK for this. Good luck to anyone trying to work out if this contract is worth accepting, because you'll have to go through each and every one of these and work out the savings on them and see if the savings add up to more than 3 billion. I think that guy is wasting his time. This is much more like it. A single blueprint, so it's quite easy to work out. You get 10% less materials needed for 300 runs, run some very quick numbers, and if that saves you more than 400,000 ISK, then this is probably a good deal and you should buy it. As I said, there's not that many of them on offer, so this is 5 single ones. I think this one is selling 8, which are exactly the same, runs 300 and 10 and 20 stats. That's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 of them are up for sale that are just antimatter charge M. All the rest are mixed in with lots of other things. So you have to check the availability of your copies on the contract system as well. So how many of these blueprints do we actually need to buy? When you first start the game, you only have the ability to run one manufacturing job at any one time. With the mass production and advanced mass production skills, each of these skills adds 1 job per level, so if you max them both out, that's an extra 10 jobs for a grand total of 11 jobs that you can run at the same time. Each blueprint can only be allocated to a single job slot. So if we want to run lots of jobs at the same time, this may mean we'll need up to 11 blueprints to run 11 jobs at the same time. But please don't rush out and spend all your money on buying multiple original blueprints from the market. Not only does this get extremely expensive, but you would have to run research jobs on each and every one of them to improve them all. Instead of that, we have the ability to create copies of our originals, and then we can use these copies to manufacture with. To make copies, first of all, as usual, you go to the Industry tab and Facilities, and we'll have to find a structure that offers copying. So you just go to the job filters and click Copying, and as before, we'll just sort them by tax rate, have a look at the little red bars which are the system index. Nothing much has changed, this place is still pretty cheap. Here we are again at our chosen structure.
Docking request accepted.
And once you've arrived and docked at your chosen structure, make sure your blueprint is in the item hanger of the structure, right click it, select Use Blueprint, and this time we're not doing manufacturing, we want to do copying, and that's this icon here of the 2 flasks. Left click on that, and as we'll see on the left hand side, there are no input materials required. So this is really cheap. The only things you have to worry about are the number of job runs and the runs per copy. The number of job runs is how many actual copies you want to make, and the runs per copy does exactly what it says on the tin. How many runs do you want each copy to have? As we see, if we do 11 job runs, so we'll get 11 blueprints with 100 runs on them each. This does take almost 3 days, so these copying jobs can take quite a while. Obviously, if you want to get up and running faster, just make copies with less runs on them, and that will reduce the time to make them. Once you're happy with how this looks, again you just click Start and the job will start running. Copying is a science job and not a manufacturing job, and that has its own set of skills. As with manufacturing, you start the game with the ability to do one science job. Lab operation and advanced lab operation skills add 1 job per skill level each, so again that's an extra 10 at maximum skills, for a grand total of 11 science jobs you can perform at the same time. When your copy's job is complete, you deliver it from the Jobs tab, and now we can use these copies to do all of our manufacturing, and then we can turn our attention to improving the original itself. As I've mentioned before, this can be improved to both lower the amount of materials we need and also to reduce the build time of each run. To do this, once again we go back to the Facilities tab, and now we're looking for Material Efficiency Research and Time Efficiency Research jobs. Lucky for us, the station we're in does this, so we can just instantly select them with these buttons here. The Factory and Diamond one is Material Research, and the Factory and Hourglass one is Time Research. This is even easier than making copies was. Again, there are no input materials required for this blueprint. There's not even anything else here other than the number of runs. Each run you do on Material Research will improve it by 1%. The maximum is 10, so there's 10 runs you can do. If you keep an eye on the job duration here, it takes less than 2 minutes to do the first run. If you're doing 2 runs and it's 4 minutes, each progressive run will take longer and longer. See, if we do the first 9 runs all at the same time, it'll take us 1 day, 8 hours, and if we do all 10, it's over 3 days. So getting the last couple of runs can be pretty difficult on some blueprints. With all industry, there is a 30-day maximum time any one job can be, so on some blueprints you'll only be able to do about the first 7 runs of these, which will take 30 days, and then you'll have to come back and do 8 and 9, and then again possibly 10 as a run on its own. But because this is a really cheap and cheerful little blueprint, we can do all 10 runs of this in 3 days, and this will give us 10% savings on every build job we do after that. Time efficiency works exactly the same way, except that each run gives you 2% faster. And again, there's 10 runs in total, so the maximum you can get is 20%. And again, this will take about 3 days. Once these runs are complete, the blueprint is permanently improved with these stats. And the best thing is that any future copies we make from that blueprint will inherit the stats from the original. So you may only want to make a few low run copies at first just to get some kind of manufacturing going, and then research your original, and then when that's done, make some better copies and throw out whatever is left of the old copies. So in less than a week, we can fully upgrade this Antimatter M blueprint original to 10% less materials and 20% faster build times. That's really nice. When it comes to production, keep in mind the economy of scale we talked about in the first video in this series. Due to material savings being calculated on the entire job rather than on a run-by-run basis, the more runs you do on a job, the more savings you will make. But installing jobs with lots of runs means the job will take longer. Perhaps sometimes you'll come across a sudden spike in prices on the market and you'll want to build lots of items really quickly to take advantage of this temporary high price. In this case, you'll drop the number of runs on your jobs to get them done faster so you can get things to market faster, at the cost of needing slightly more input materials, as you won't be getting the best economy of scale. The theory here being that the extra profit you'll make from the temporary high price will offset any losses from needing a few more materials. So keep an eye on the market and always have a good stockpile of copies and materials ready to go at a moment's notice. Another thing I would strongly advise is to only ever use copies to build from, and only have an original blueprint actually inside a structure when it's being copied or researched. If you're using an original inside a player structure and the job takes more than 24 hours, then you're at risk because the corporation that owns the station can be war decked, and wars go active after 24 hours, and then after that the station can be attacked and disabled or destroyed, and you can lose your extremely expensive original blueprint before you can get it back. So never store originals in a player owned Upwell structure, and never loan them to anyone either, even your own corporation or alliance members. If someone is asking you for some blueprints, make copies and give them the copies. Originals are very valuable, especially when they're fully researched, so keep them out of stations that might blow up and keep them out of the hands of thieves that might just run off with them. So to recap this deeper look into blueprints, decide whether you want to buy an original from the market or copies from contracts. If you are buying an original, only buy one and copy it, and then manufacture from the copies. Whilst that's going on, you can research and upgrade your original and then make more copies and get rid of the crappy old ones. Keep a decent stockpile of copies and materials on hand at all times to take advantage of market opportunities. And last but not least, keep your originals safe. Don't let anyone steal them. On the subject of materials, that is what we're going to be talking about in the next video. How do we get materials? Do we just buy them? How do we buy them? Do we mine rocks to get minerals, or do we melt down trash loot? We'll dive deep into all those questions and probably cover quite a few more as well. I hope you come back for that, and until then, take very good care of yourselves. I'll talk to you later.